Alright, what's up everybody? This is Rob Shack. So today we're going to be doing the next video in my Rivals series. I'm going to do the Skyline GT-R V-Spec 2 versus the Skyline GT-R V-Spec. I thought it'd be interesting to do this one because the cars are extremely similar. Obviously they're like the same car, but there's just some slight differences in how they sound and how they perform. And so I have a race too that I can do where I race the AI against each other. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. I'm going to get to 1,000 subs. That's the hope by the end of the year, and we're doing good. So, but just keep it up. Y'all are great. About 15% of my views are from people who are subscribed, so I think get that up a little bit, and that'd be great. Anyway, so if you're new to the channel, what we're doing here and what I've been doing in this series, which I've been doing for about a few months now, is I drive 2 to 3 cars, race them on complex string just to talk about it. I don't know what that yellow ghost is. I don't know who the ghost is. I don't know. Who cares? But yeah, we just drive a car on complex string. I talk about the car. I talk about how it sounds, how it performs. I talk about its rival car a little bit, and then I will do a race with the AI of these 2 cars together. Then I will do a max speed test at the end of the video, and I'll bookmark or timestamp each one just so that y'all know where they're coming. But yeah, so we are starting with the Skyline GT-R V-Spec 2. I think you race the V-Spec a lot more than the V-Spec 2 in this game. The cars are very similar, but I've noticed some weird stuff with the AI in this game with the V-Spec 2. It seems like the V-Spec 2 is harder for the AI to handle, which is why I kind of wanted to do this video. If you look at my epic race I did last week, the V-Spec beat the V-Spec 2 in the race that I'm going to be doing in this race, which is the Race of the Red Emblem in Professional League. So that's a great race because the GTS T-Type M spins out all the time. But I like the AI of the Skyline in this game. It seems like they kind of slide a lot, and the car kind of promotes that kind of behavior. The all-wheel drive makes the car like kind of just slidey. It doesn't really seem like it, like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like the GTRs, since they're all-wheel drive but like super powerful, they just kind of, instead of being like, you know, the forward, like the FRs, FFs, where it's like clearly the like wear and tear is on the front tires or the back tires with mid-engine racing cars. It's like with the Skylines, it's like it's just all the tires get worn evenly, but the car just slides all over the place. And so I'm noticing that a lot with the Skyline GT-R V-Spec 2 here. I think the V-Spec will do the same thing. I'm not really sure what the difference is between the V-Spec and the V-Spec 2. They have different horsepowers, but I'm not really sure what that means. So if someone knows what the V-Spec means on the, like, I don't know what you would call that with this car, but it's like the like specs of it, you know, there's like the GTR, GTR V-Spec, V-Spec 2, and all these different, the later games in the series have a million different Skyline GTRs. There's like M-Spec and NERS and all that stuff. And so I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming it's just a better version of the original Skyline GTR. But the GTR V-Spec 2 seems to have a little bit less handling than the GTR V-Spec. I'm not really sure why. It also seems to have more power. They sound very similar, but you can kind of hear a difference. And if you want to go back and listen to both, you can kind of tell. And then when I do the AI race, you'll definitely hear a difference because those are the cars untuned. When you tune the cars up, they sound pretty similar. Just they sound like a race car of a Skyline. You know, they sound like the Pennzoil Nismo, something like that. But yeah, so when I think about the GTR V-Spec and the V-Spec 2, I feel like what I've noticed with Gran Turismo 3, because there's not a lot of cars, I've said this in all my videos on the Rival series, the game didn't have a lot of cars, so what they did was they basically created rival cars for each one, which is kind of the idea that came out of this series. Was like, I noticed that there were a lot of similarities in certain types of cars, and then they would put a race in the game that has all those rivals together so that you kind of have an interesting version of how these races go. And then with the Skyline GTR and the GTR V-Spec in 2, with those 2 cars, what ends up happening is you have the Race of the Red Emblem, those 2 cars rival each other, and then you just end up seeing what they're going to do throughout the whole rest of the races. And so I think that's what's interesting, is that you have generally the GTR V-Spec has better handling, so he'll take an early lead, and if the V-Spec 2 can catch up, he can pull away. But the GTR V-Spec 2 is way more likely to spin out than the V-Spec on most courses, at least in that Race of the Red Emblem race. The GT-R V-Spec is interesting in that there are some races where it's out of control completely, but it doesn't race the V-Spec 2 in those races, and I'm not really sure what that's all about. So I think if I had to give a preference, I would honestly pick the V-Spec over the V-Spec 2, just because the V-Spec seems to have a better handling, and that seems to be a better stat in these games. I don't know what that ghost car is. I'm very confused about what car is on the race right now, because I haven't done a race on this course yet, so I don't know what that is. And it just disappeared. So it's really weird. I'm not really worried about it. I think the game that might be like, I don't even know what that could possibly be. But yeah, now what I'm going to do is go to the V-Spec and talk about that a little bit while I drive it around Complex Dream. Well, see, now there's another ghost car, but I can't see anything. That might be just me. That might be my other version, but it's just weird that I can't see it. It's very strange. But let me see if I go back and look at the replay. Can I see the ghost car? Because I think that they just don't let you see it. But that's just funny that there would be that you can't see it. Yeah, so there is a ghost car on the race. Anyway, okay. Yeah, so now I'm gonna go switch over to the V-Spec 1, the GT-R V-Spec OG, and drive it around the course. See if what I kind of speculate here is true, which is that it seems like the V-Spec 2 just has more power, but they make it a little bit out of control, especially because I have each one of them over 1,000 horsepower now. So that's kind of where that comes from. And then we'll do an AI race on Race the Red Emblem, which is one of my favorites. There's a lot of good races in this game that the AI mess up on. That could probably be a video I do later, which is just, you know, which races are the AI most prone to mess up on. We'll do that at some point, because that's like my whole channel in this game. But yeah, so the GT-R V-Spec, have it in the Dandelion Yellow. I'm pretty sure that's the prize car that you get from winning some race. I like when Gran Turismo games give you a special color for the prize car and maybe a little bit of a power boost. I think that stuff is super interesting. But, well, I'm just messing up all over the place right now. But fortunately, the timer hasn't started yet, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, so I like this yellow. I feel like this would look really good in real life too, if you ever saw one. I've never really seen a Skyline GT-R R34 in real life. I would like to. I've seen a few GT-R R35s, but that's very rare. Very rare to find those cars nowadays. But yeah. So GT-R V-Spec, yellow, looks awesome, sounds awesome. Very similar in performance to the GT-R V-Spec 2. Again, that's the kind of the point of these videos, is I pick rival cars. So when I talk about which ones I prefer in certain areas, it's not a guarantee that that one is just better all around. It's more of just like my preference. And the cars are super slight, and that is it's a very close difference. I'm not like, when I say which one I feel like has more handling, it's not like it's a crazy difference, and the car that I'm talking about that doesn't have as good of handling just sucks. They're very, very similar cars. It's just part of what I noticed with Gran Turismo 3, which was that they basically created rival cars in races so that when they made races, they were more dynamic, which I think was a very smart way to make a game with not a lot of cars, but make it very replayable. And this game is extremely replayable, so that's what I'm talking about here. So GT-R V-Spec seems like it slides a little bit more than the GT-R V-Spec 2. Definitely able to use that to your advantage, especially on these tight corners. It can kind of slide through the corner, hits the apex really well. So I don't know if that actually means it has better handling or actually worse, but it seems easier. It seems predictable, I'll say that. It seems like the GT-R V-Spec you can use to kind of get a better time, which is kind of the whole point. It does seem like it's a little bit slower, which obviously is true given its horsepower, but it's noticeable, so that's kind of an interesting thing. Handling is still good. These two cars have a good handling for sure. The Skyline is just a great car all around. There's a reason why they've made the R35 look the exact same forever. They haven't updated that car since the GT-R R35 came out. I don't know why they took the time in life to make the Skyline GT-R R34, and then they made the R35, and they took away the Skyline, so it's like technically a different series. I don't know why they did that. They should just have kept the Skyline name, because it looks awesome, and it's clearly a upgrade to the R34. I don't know why they do these things. Naming cars must be so weird, because if you name a car bad, then you're just stuck with a stupid name. So I don't know why. Now they just can't redo the R35, and so I wonder if they'll ever make an R36. I don't know. We'll see at some point. I'm sure they'll make an R36 and it'll look awesome, and then they'll keep it the same for a billion years like they did with the R35. The R34 was the last of the like Skyline GT-Rs though, and it looked great and it was awesome. It was a very fun car to see in Gran Turismo games, and so now I don't know what they're gonna do. But who knows? Who really knows anymore? Nissans kind of have fallen off the wayside recently. They still have the 350Z or 370Z or whatever it is. The Zs are awesome and the Skylines are awesome, but other than that, I don't really like any of their cars anymore. But we'll see. Yeah, Skyline GT-R V-Spec, very good car. I do think it's really good. I think its handling is actually a little bit worse than I expected, but I think it works well for my driving style, so maybe I should rearrange how I say it and say that it actually has worse handling, but it's more fun to drive, and that leads to a better lap time. Like, I think I'm doing way better right now, personally, on this lap time. I think I've kept it on the road, kept it on the apex a lot more. Now, granted, I'm probably more used to driving this car now that I've driven the R32, or R34 V-Spec 2, but this car is still really good, very good. Skylines are always good cars in these games, and the Skyline is really a very good car for, has a really good top speed too, so it's very highly contested in the Like the Wind races, which is why there is a Like Skyline always in those races. I think it's actually this one, it's the V-Spec 1 that's actually in the Like the Wind races, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's a good car, very good car. Both of them are really good. Not too often that I do a road car comparison in this game, but I think I would slightly give the preference to the V-Spec 1, just because it feels like it's a little bit more fun to drive, as I just drive off the road there to close out the race. I think I would have had a better lap time if I hadn't have done that, so... But yeah, it's a good car. Both are good. I don't really know which one you should prefer. If you have a preference, let me know, because that's kind of the whole point of these videos, is I like to have an opinion that's not really set in stone and allow people to talk about what they think, because that's the whole point. So let me know which one you prefer in the comments below. Now I'll switch over to the replay of the race of the Red Emblem. All right, what's up, everybody? We're back. This is going to be the Epic Race series where I compare the Skyline GT-R V-Spec and the Skyline GT-R V-Spec 2. This was probably not the best way to start the race because they started in 5th and 4th, and that means it's going to be hilarious. There was a lot of great stuff in this replay, and they battled literally the entire time, so definitely enjoy this one. I couldn't tell which one was which because they never got far away from each other. And here's the crazy part here where nobody brakes and just launches everybody into walls. It's really strange. The GT-R V-Spec 2 from R32 got destroyed and slammed into a wall. And then everybody just destroys each other. And then the R34s get ahead. I would have rather spawned them in front just to kind of see the actual battle. But this was more fun. And also they battled still the entire time, which was really interesting because I was convinced that the red one was the V-Spec 2 because the V-Spec 2 usually wins, and it was just weird to see them battle the entire time. So I figured, okay, the red one must be the R34 V-Spec 2 because he never got away from the black one. But then the black one ended up being the V-Spec R34 V-Spec 2, sorry. It got really confusing because of the fact that they never got further away from each other for literally 8 laps out of the 10. They were right behind. They were within each other's draft the entire time. So it's like, surely the one in the back is the better one. He just can't get around him. But it ended up being the other way around. The V-Spec was in second the entire race, right behind the V-Spec 2. And that does not usually happen when I watch this replay. Usually what ends up happening is the V-Spec 2 gets ahead and then just loses everybody and wins. But he literally did not do that this race, so I don't know if that's normal or not. I mean, this is the thing with this game, is the AI is so good / bad in this game that it's always different every single time. So I was just like, I'm just gonna sit behind them until we all pit and just watch them fight, because they literally battled the entire race until the very end, and then one car gets ahead of the other one. So I was like, I didn't expect that. Hilarious that the R32 got knocked into a wall and is now still behind the GTST Type M. It's kind of an insult to be that far behind at this point, because the GT-R R32 is supposed to be really good, and he is really good, but it's just funny to see him in 6th because he gets, for some reason, when they battle going into this tight corner here, they don't break and they just slam into the wall. I don't really know what that's all about. It's like, I don't understand it, but gosh, the R33 almost spun out there. That's kind of funny. But the GTST Type M actually did a pretty good race for a while until that he hasn't actually spun yet. Usually the GTST Type M spins a lot on that first little, I don't know what you call that corner. I don't think it's a chicane, but it's something. The tight corners, I don't know. Those 2 corners are very challenging in reverse because you're coming at it much faster than when you come through this course forward. But like, this is what I'm talking about, is these 2 dudes fought and were right next to each other for so many laps. The V-Spec just stayed in his draft and kept trying to make a pass. So I was really confused, thought it was the V-Spec 2, but it's not. So, and you can't really tell because of the fact that I couldn't get close enough to the black one to see the 2 on its little, below the taillight there. And then if this was the V-Spec 2, you wouldn't be able to see it because it's red. So I was just like this big mystery here. And then also the V-Spec 2 is still not in front of the GTST, which is hilarious. So it's a good race, honestly. There was some good spins. Eventually the GTST loses his mind and starts spinning all over the place. That car is so weird. It's very old and has terrible handling characteristics. So eventually I'll show that. But these 2 dudes fight forever. And then the GTST actually finally gets passed, but he's still in the draft of the GT-R V-Spec 2 from R32. It's pretty funny stuff. Good race. This is always a good one. You never know what the AI are going to do in this one because they seem to have a lot of problems with certain corners. The thing that I'll say that was interesting was it does seem like the V-Spec, OG V-Spec, has better handling like I thought, because as you'll see, the moment the V-Spec 2 starts trying to get away from him, the V-Spec 2 will do something stupid and mess up, and then the V-Spec will catch back up again. And even like moments like that where the V-Spec was drafting, you'd think that he would mess up there, and he somehow didn't. Usually when the car is drafting into that first corner, they go flying off the road and mess up. But moments like that are really weird, where it ends up being they still keep battling for like 8 laps. They battle it out. I'll show the GTST Type S or Type M spinning a lot because it's just funny when that happens. Because he does spin, and once he spins, he gone, and he's not going to be close to the R32 GTR anymore. He's just totally going to be falling behind. But we have a good battle here for like 8 laps, us 3, which is kind of cool. And it is really interesting to see, like, it's interesting to see that the V-Spec has better handling. It seems like that's just true. So I don't know why. It seems like you would think that when they make a new one, it would just be better in every way. But that is definitely not true, because they literally never lose each other for 8 laps. So it's fascinating stuff. I don't think I'll talk anymore after this. I'll just let the replay go out. Y'all can watch them battle. It's a very, very close battle for a very long time. And then even after I pass them, they still battle. They still battle for a really, really long time. And then eventually, after this ends, I will do a max speed test with the GT-R V-Spec and the V-Spec 2 in my garage. And then we'll end this video. So thank y'all for watching. Help me get to 1,000 subs. I don't think I said that earlier. So you'll probably won't have seen that. But help me get to 1,000 subs. That'd be great. Thank y'all for watching. Y'all are great. Enjoy. Peace.